For those that care about lore, I think it's important to have context going into certain releases. And we do have a very interesting release coming in the next episode with Heresy. Most notably, we're going back to Rhulk's pyramid ship. And so we're going to watch a couple of lore videos on this. Let's take a look, everybody. By the way, people, if you can, please go over to Bife's YouTube channel. Hit the like button, okay? Type an eggplant or two inside of his comment section. We need our lore wizards here, okay?
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So, I didn't quite think we'd be talking about this so soon, but here we are. As it turns out, there are some new details on the new dungeon that have been revealed, and it's gotten me looking with a fair bit more anticipation than I had at Heresy. Bleak as the times may be for Destiny right now, it's cool to see that there are still bangers releasing here and there. And, well, maybe this follows in the vague footsteps of Vesper's host. Maybe this is actually going to be a really cool dungeon. So, let's go ahead and break down everything that Bungie revealed recently about this new dungeon called Sundered Doctrine. Spoilers, of course, if you hadn't already guessed. Starting off, we need to head to the TWID. It's here that we get the following details revealed about the new dungeon. Quote, Heresy is right around the corner, and with it comes the launch of a new dungeon. On Friday, February 7th, travel to Savathun's throne world and infiltrate Rhulk's pyramid ship in the new dungeon, Sundered Doctrine. To celebrate the launch, we're issuing a challenge to the top fire teams in the world with the Sundered Doctrine Dungeon Race. That's nothing new. Dungeon races have been happening now, well, since Vesper's host, so it's not surprising that they'd continue it after the success of the last one. However, then there's the following. All fireteam members must acquire the Drowning Labyrinth quest to enter the dungeon. So we have a few things to go off there, and they are already kind of interesting. First of all, heading back to Savathun's throne world is always bound to land us in some kind of horrifying hive or darkness-based shenanigans, but with this explicitly heading back to Rhulk's pyramid, yeah, this is going to get spicier than usual. First of all, the name of both the dungeon and the quest offer us some insight at what might be happening here. So, I guess it's worth first asking, whose doctrine is being sundered? And is there any relevance for the description of this dungeon as being a part of the Drowning Labyrinth quest? From what we know about Heresy, the entire point of the episode is to tip the whole of the Hive pantheon on its head. The very name implies that we'll be countermanding the sword logic, doing something unthinkable. For the mainstream Zivor Wrath-aligned Hive, who haven't strayed from their old ways, Heresy is many things, from showing pity for an opponent to negotiating what might be considered a reasonable peace treaty with them. But the greatest heresy one can commit as a Hive is, of course, necromancy.
Yeah.
It's a sin so grievous that when the Taken King Oryx discovered his own son Nokris had been learning it, he banished him forever from the Hive realms and removed every single record of him from the Hive's histories entirely. There was no mention.
What's a good comparison for this, by the way, of why the Hive, it goes against the sword logic. It's like samurai back in the day drawing their blades for a 1v1, but before the sword fight even begins, the other one just pulls a gun out and shoots the other guy. You know what I mean? It's just, it goes completely against, it's supposed to be survival of the fittest, and if you died, it's because you were a little bitch. And if you've found some ways to navigate around that with essentially, in our case, Argos, the power of light, and necromancy and stuff, it defies what the sword logic is all about. And can I just be straight? I kind of agree with the Hive. You get one shot, ball out. Now, there is some weird situation here where it's like, yeah, Oryx is kind of being a hypocrite because didn't he kill his sister, both his sisters, and did some weird bullshit and then brought them back? Yeah. But I completely understand why we are just perceived as just zombies. That's really what we are. You know, you can put armor on us, you can give us cool looking weapons, but at the end of the day, from an enemy's perspective, we're just an army of zombies. It doesn't help our Guardian doesn't really talk that much anyways. Not really, because those didn't die for the sword logic. Yeah, but they still died, right? They died to give power to Oryx. I get it.
Mention of him in the world's grave. The only reason Oryx wasn't completely successful in this endeavor was because of a single statue in his own throne world at the Dreadnought, which he couldn't destroy. This was, for the longest time, our only hint to Nokris's existence. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I think I'm bringing it up because of the fact that for someone to commit heresy, it's kind of similar or comparable to sundering one's doctrine, in this case a religious or spiritual doctrine. The hive of Xivu-Arath's brood still holds this truth. There is another oft-forgotten group that also holds on to these truths, and that's the worm gods. Their belief in such things, in fact, predates the hive's belief. The belief in such things, as you might remember, is called the sword logic. So, if sundered doctrine is another example of what would be considered heresy to the hive and the worm gods, then perhaps someone or something is being resurrected within the pyramid ship. What exactly, or who exactly? Well, my best guess isn't who you might initially think. It isn't Rhulk. It's his prime captive that my mind wanders to.
Worm.
The progenitor of the many worms that he experimented on. The so-called worm mother. Zeta. No, not Chaita, as I previously pronounced it all the way back in the times of, like, Witch Queen. As it turns out, when you hear something the first time in-game, that's kind of got to be the default pronunciation. Say hi to all the Atheon fans for me. And besides, this way, it's less likely for me to get demonetized, as whenever I say Shaita, it's, well, you can probably make that one out for yourselves. For those of you who don't know, Zeta is the mother of all worm gods. She was one of the last survivors of the war on Fundament that cast her and her children into the deepest reaches of its oceans. She was what was used to fuel Rhulk's superweapon, the Upended. And as we defeated the subjugator above this weapon, Zeta was left to die. This is my best guess as to what we'll be facing within the Sundered Doctrine, a worm god reborn and reawakened by some harebrained scheme from somebody, somewhere. Is that the only possibility? Well, no, far from it. The quest, the Drowning Labyrinth, raises an interesting connotation about who we might face. The use of the word drowning is one associated with both Rhulk and the worm gods. You shall drift, you shall drown in the deep is a classic line of Zol, one of the worm gods. Meanwhile, Rhulk also has lines involving drowning. In particular, his first challenge to us when we approach his pyramid ship in Vow of the Disciple. You know that line? Rise from the deep, or drown in it. So, it is possible that Rhulk is being resurrected here. But how likely is that? Well, I think it's substantially less likely, but it's not impossible. I'm making this based on an assumption that his remains were kind of removed from the pyramid and potentially have been nuked. This is a big assumption, and we really don't know what the state of the pyramid is after the missions where we went to re-enter it at the end of Witch Queen's kind of content cycle. You know, those points at which you just go in and you hear all the different dialogue pieces. You've got like 10 minutes in that area to explore them all and listen to Rhulk. Yeah, that mission shows us nothing about Rhulk's body, but the lore around Vow of the Disciple tells us a lot. In particular, there are materials from the pyramid ship that got transported out. This included canisters filled with something rather nondescript, save for its appearance as a black fluid substance. The Guardian carrying these vials crashed on Mars, and the materials leaked out, attaching to his body and creeping up his wounded extremities, seeming to heal them as they went. However, this wasn't a benevolent thing. There was a malicious voice attached to it, a voice that I think we can assume was Rhulk, but is not actually guaranteed to be so. It spoke in his similar parlance at very least. It's impossible to know because it was never truly confirmed, but what we do know is that the Guardian in question wasn't going to find out. They blew up their Sparrow's power supply and set off a small nuclear explosion in proximity to themselves, wiping out not only their own body but also whatever remained of this black fluid substance. So was that what remained of Rhulk? Well, maybe. I think he might not be coming back if that is the case. But also, it doesn't really confirm anything, because as best we know, his body might still be calcified at the very top of that platform above Zeta and the Upended. It leaves that big open question about whether the pyramid is in fact the correct location to find Rhulk's body. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but no matter what happens, I'd say that whatever the black goop was, if that was Rhulk, would point to the idea that he is significantly more dead than he was before, especially now that he seems to be a lot more crispy and ionized than he was before we even beat the snot out of him. So this could be about Rhulk, it could be about Zeta, but it could be about neither of them, because this is Rhulk's pyramid. It's worth exploring for a lot of other things than the dead bodies that you find within it.
So much lore.
Rhulk's pyramid is a cornucopia of strange artifacts with potentially dangerous stuff to explore. So let's just go ahead and talk about some of these things.
Man.
First of all, there is the possibility that the ship itself is actually still alive. What do I mean when I say that? Well, as we learned in the final shape, the pyramid vessels aren't just ships. They have some kind of yearning and consciousness. They reach out, they react to other presences. They are, in a strange way, kind of sentient. We learned this in the final shape's ghost missions, that without the witness guiding them, they are left without someone to control them and direct them. There is a yearning for a mind to do so. In particular, this is in the Final Days quests, where you get the Visitation mission. It's the one where you revisit the Lunar Pyramid from the end of Shadowkeep. If this is true of Nezarek's pyramid on the moon, then it might be true of Rhulk's pyramid in Savathun's throne world as well. Even Rhulk's cursed and damaged vessel is something to seriously consider. After all, a single pyramid vessel, even if it's been grounded, has more advanced technology than anything we've ever seen. If each one is sentient and is looking for a new master, we should anticipate that the pyramid itself is the prize in all these schemes. After all, it's part of the reason why we denied it to the Scorn for so long. And as a result, there could be a bunch of different parties looking to invade it and possibly take it over. That includes the Scorn, but it could also include the Dread, the Shadow Legion, or Xivo Arath's Hive forces. And should one of them be able to raise this mighty ship and somehow drag it from the throne world, I mean, we're in a lot of trouble. As a quick reminder of the scale of power of some of these vessels, you have certain points at which their defenses were tested. In particular, Ashamir on Io fired a whole bunch of different weapons at them, and it turns out they don't have some kind of sophisticated shielding system. They have more like what I'd call a teleportation barrier. Essentially, when a round is about to hit the pyramid, it's teleported out before it can do so and is sent to a harmless plane. Imagine the same thing happens, except with all sorts of weapons. You could literally launch a nuke at the pyramid ships, and the nuke wouldn't go off, because it would just be snapped into existence in another dimension, and would be rendered mostly harmless. So, yeah, there's your big problem with enemies having a pyramid ship.
Dude, so what's more advanced? A pyramid ship or the Dreadnought? Pyramids by order of magnitude? I was under the assumption pyramid ships, because of the sheer quantity of them, is more powerful. But like a one-to-one comparison, one pyramid ship versus the one and only Dreadnought. Pyramid still? Gotcha. Pyramid ships are invulnerable. Oh, and we know for certain, like, the Witness and that civilization did build the pyramid ships, right? But Mara blew up a pyramid ship. She took an L to the Dreadnought. Good point. That's a good fucking point. Mara planned on dying. I don't know if did she plan on dying, or was it just like a last contingency when she realized that Oryx took her best shot? And also she didn't really die.
That's just one example of the defenses that they have, and that's to say nothing of the weapons that they hold. Mighty gravity generators that were capable of literally tearing planets in half. And if we're to believe that the power of the darkness extends into these vessels, it's possible that they could, in some long-winded harebrained scheme, be used to power something greater. We'll get onto that when we talk about the Upended. Beyond just the pyramid itself, Rhulk's pyramid is filled with valuable relics, and I'm not just talking about those stolen from the Vault of Glass or distilled from pure taken energy, but then there is the most obvious and powerful relic. a relic for which he has received one of his many titles, a relic above which we finally destroyed him. That big old floating cube, the Upended.
Oh.
We still don't know precisely how this broken superweapon operates, or what it does. But we know that whatever it is, it was capable of sealing Savathun's throne world from the light. And that gives me an idea of what it might do. I think this is a superweapon that's using the power of the darkness and the witness, and the power of taking in particular. If the Upended transports things, as the action of taking does, to a place sealed from the light, then perhaps it seals them in a pocket dimension of pure darkness energy, where they can be corrupted and destroyed. We've been to pockets of dark space like this, most notably on the Presage mission. It's worth remembering as well that one of the first lines Savathun said as Osiris when we explored that vessel was simply, "There is no light here." So what if that's what the Upended does? It quite literally turns worlds upside down, Stranger Things style, transporting whole planets into dimensional pockets like the one we found in Presage. And let's be honest, that would not be unheard of in terms of the power of the Witness and the Black Fleet either.
Dude, it's honestly kind of genius. Now we can get all the locations that were sunset, but the Upended versions now. You know what I mean? There you go, fellas.
I mean, take a look at what happened to Mars, Titan, Mercury, and Io. The Witness literally abducted them. Who's to say the Upended isn't the means by which that was done? Maybe every pyramid vessel has a relic like this within it. Maybe Rhulk particularly likes them. Maybe it's a distillation of some of the power that the Witness...
How is that cope? Hold on, no. Cope would be, we're going to get a bunch of new destinations in the next expansion. That's cope. What I'm telling you is we're going to get what we've always had, but the Upended version of those planets.
Was able to wield into an ability that
would allow Rhulk
to do the same.
Do it.
Who knows? If we're going to consider the dangers someone might seek out within the pyramid, superweapons like the Upended rank pretty high on that list. And then, finally, I think we need to look at the strange curiosities that are still within Rhulk's domain. For much as we were exploring his pyramid ship in great detail when it came to the raid, we never got to look into the stranger curiosities found deeper within the temple complexes. We never got to see what lies below in the deepest reaches of that place. Our journey through the pyramid when we went to face Rhulk was like ascending the steps of a temple to meet a high priest. Perhaps this time we'll be descending into the catacombs to find what monsters roam in the darkness. Should we return here, we will also probably be greeted once more by the stranger things inside the pyramid. The many encased experiments where Scorn were ritually fed the children of Zeta and then held in stasis as a strange mockery of what happened to the Hive. The bone of the long-dead Leviathan, a testament to the might of the Subjugator. And of course, the Prophecy Wall, which seems to have mostly come true, but for its final verse, which remains incomplete as best we know. The exciting thing is that we don't know what'll be inside there, but I for one am looking forward to finding out. Vow of the Disciple is some of my favorite Destiny content across the whole franchise. In my mind, it is a top 3, if not the best raid experience in Destiny, with one of the most iconic villains that was tragically underexplored. And yet, he still has some of the biggest impact on the game. He is so massive and looms so large in my mind that I cannot wait to jump back into his pyramid. Rhulk is going to be something we look into more, and I imagine that's based purely on the dungeon alone. So we may get to lift the veil a little more and discover some more about Rhulk's past. If that somehow connects to the Vanguard probe that was dispatched in the direction of what remains of Lubre, well, this may lead to more interesting places in the future of Destiny. More interesting places than I might have anticipated from Heresy. Anyway, that's all from me for now. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. And of course, if you want more videos and more content regarding universes near and far, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those
Everybody,
email notifications.
go to this man's video.
But as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Parodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.
So some of the comments that are being dropped here. Okay, so like, again, the reason why this raid was such a big deal is it was the first time like we got to peel back that veil that he spoke of and see, okay, who's really the bad guys here? You know, who's the bad guy? Who is actually controlling things? Who's calling the shots? And up to this point, like, we thought the biggest bads were the worm gods. But as we saw with Zol, they weren't that fucking, I mean, at least, again, that was the weakest worm god. But it was like, all right, I mean, they're strong, but it's not like they're fucking crazy strong, you know? Well, turns out, you know, Rhulk is the one who bitch slapped them all into place, and they've essentially been doing his bidding, which is essentially the witness's bidding. And so the lore implications from this raid were huge. It's what opened up, in my opinion, it's the thing that teed things off for everything leading up to the final shape. And I think Rhulk, although it was a very challenging day one experience, Rhulk was such a big villain that he could have been a villain for like 2 expansions. Actually, you know what I kind of thought? I thought there was going to be more of a lead up of like us dealing with like all of the disciples of the witness. I almost feel like because Callus became a disciple, right? Callus became a disciple for the witness, correct? Like officially. To me, I felt like that kind of watered down the bar, so to speak, for what it means to be a disciple of the witness. It was almost like Callus was just a fanboy for so long that the witness finally just caged and was like, fuck it, you're in the club. Shut the fuck up. Don't ever ask me again about it. You're in the fucking club. Callus was done real early. Callus was always going to be done dirty, man. Okay? I mean, dude, he wasn't him. Callus was never him. Callus was coolest whenever he was like that mystery voice out in space trying to, you know, essentially garner our support. But as soon as as soon as all the lore got revealed about him, he couldn't even stand up against Gaul. I actually feel like Gaul, like there should have been like more stuff on him. Like Gaul's ascension is amazing. I kind of feel like we did Gaul dirty because it was like the way the Red War campaign came off. It was like, he's just a bad guy. You know what I mean? Gaul should have been the raid boss. Should have been a raid boss, but like, I would have loved to see when he was a kid, man. You know, he's this albino cabal cast out by his people, you know, and then fucking raises himself up out of the pits, wins every 1v1, dude, completely shits on all the other cabal who only recognize strength. Such a badass. And then fucking with the help of Callus's daughter, overthrows everything. And, you know, I mean, look, man, his story is amazing. I feel like that should have been explored more. Maybe even like a lead-up expansion to that. Gaul was basically the Dark Knight's version of Bane. There you go. Yeah, he was that guy, dude. He was that guy. And like the thing I didn't like, the things that I don't like, is like, I kind of wish there was a moment there because like Gaul shows up, takes away our light, and then kicks us off the top of the ship, right? To me, that just doesn't ever set the tone. You brought up Bane. That's a great example. Why was the 1v1 between Bane and Batman such, like the first 1v1, such a big deal? We had never seen Batman lose. Like in every situation, Batman always like, he clutches the fuck up. The only way he loses is if there was like some like, and he like only temporarily lost. The only way he really lost is like if the enemy did some shady shit. And then he, you know, but he was always just a temporary loss. But the 1v1 with Bane, oh my lord, that was such a big deal because it's like, you're like, what? You're watching your favorite hero and you're like, wait, he's losing right now. And then you're like, oh my God, he's not just losing, he's getting demolished. In hand-to-hand combat, he is getting his ass beat. The point I'm trying to make is, I feel like that would have been amazing for us to have had with Gaul. Like, we're like, all right, Destiny 2 is vanilla. Let's fucking do this. Gaul, here's us at our peak power. Here's our light. I wish there was like some like really cool hand-to-hand combat situations where like, you imagine Gaul like coming up, beating our ass. Our ghost revives us, and immediately upon revival, he beats our ass again. And like, he doesn't even stop. Like, he doesn't even try to stop our ghost from reviving us. He literally is just like almost like Thanos. He walks, like he's just walking around. He's just like, again, just looks at our ghost and tells them again, another. And like, he just straight up beats our ass over and over. And then at the end of it, he's like, I've had enough now. And that's when he rips the light from us and kicks us off. And so that would like solidify, like he looks at us as such an insignificant ant that kicking us off the ship, he views us as completely the most unthreatening thing to him. And it's a perfect example of just how good Gaul is. You think me mean the thing that Saint did to Savathun? Yes. Very similar, except to do it on script, not in a fucking lore tab. You know where I'm coming from? And then it would make sense to actually go through and have this like training scene for our guardians. Like, all right, now we gotta build ourselves up back from 1. This means Cross wants a Destiny 2 remake. No, I just mean like, there's just like, there are times where like you have these moments where you have these like truly epic or you have these setups that are truly epic. And I feel like the setup is that's the hardest thing to get to. Then after that, it's just like, all right, now let's sell it. What makes a villain a villain? What made Thanos, what was the moment that you were like, dude, Thanos is for real? My moment was when Hulk, whenever they were on the ship, and I think it was Thor or Loki, I can't remember, but they were like, yeah, but we have a Hulk. And Hulk just starts tearing into Thanos. And then all of a sudden, Hulk just gets caught. Hold on. Let me pull this shit up. This right here, this was the moment. This is what I wanted from Gaul.
We don't have the Tesseract. It was destroyed on Asgard. You really are the worst, brother.
I assure you, brother, the sun will shine on us again.
Your optimism is misplaced, Asgardian.
Well, for one thing, I'm not Asgardian. And for another, we have a Hulk.
This was such an oh shit moment. Because I don't know about you, when I was watching this for the first time, I was like, yeah, whoop his ass! That's right, Hulk!
Let him have his fun.
And then it was like, what? What did he just say? That was the tone setter, man. That was the moment where it was like, oh shit, we got a for real villain. You know what I mean? And look. What's so crazy about that is like when he said let him have his fun. This is probably one of the few times where Thanos was like, about damn time I can finally throw a counter punch instead of just demolishing my enemy. Look, the dude was actually having a good time. He was like, hell yeah, he's smiling. He's like, good. And now I can finally fight. He's not even the worst villain. I know that. I know. The purpose of me bringing this up is not to get into Marvel lore right now, because obviously some of you know way more than I do. The purpose of this is you took a novice like me, and now you've set the stage so perfectly for this villain, but to carry things out. And what I'm saying is, I feel like we've had some great villains in Destiny, and I feel like some of them have really missed that mark. And maybe we're like, you know, perhaps we're overestimating just how big of a villain it is. But I feel like Gaul was a big enough and influential enough villain to have been that. Now, here's what doesn't work. If you've got a 1-year turnaround time, then you can't do this. If you're just like, we just got to run through this. It's all about quantity instead of quality. And we just got to get a villain out the door. You know what I mean? Then obviously you can't have that. You're not going to be able to flesh things out like this. This takes multiple years. Hulk is ass in the MCU. I don't give a fuck, dude. Have you seen him in Marvel Rivals? Oh my God, that Iron Man Hulk combo, ridiculous. That's canon. Rhulk was our best gameplay-wise villain. Yeah, Rhulk was, I don't know, man. I would argue and say Rhulk was stronger than the Witness in some aspects. Like in a combat scenario, I would argue and say Rhulk was stronger. But Rhulk's the first disciple. Slow down there, Chief. I'm just saying, in an alternate universe, if Rhulk was to seriously take a 1v1 with the Witness, I think he could have won. Like in a hand-to-hand combat scenario, even with all 10,000 hands, Rhulk could have pulled that off. And we're saying all this, by the way, in regards to Rhulk and Gaul, But were people really that satisfying with Nezarec? And look, Nezarec had a lot of lead up. We had an entire season where we were collecting parts of Nezarec. Nezarec wasn't even supposed to be a raid boss. Well, I mean, it's like, all right, he wasn't supposed to be a raid boss. What was Nezarec supposed to be? Because we obviously had an entire 1 to 2 seasons devoted to the build up to Nezarec, with multiple exotics literally named, multiple weapons and exotics literally named after Nezarec. For me, nothing will beat the build up of Oryx. That was cinema. Yeah, Oryx was pretty good. I mean, that one anyone could get behind. We killed his son, who he, by the way, gave no shit about, but okay. It was like one of those situations where he was like, I have to kill you just out of principle, you know? Who would win, Oryx or Rhulk? Rhulk. Rhulk would fucking clear Oryx. Guys, does people y'all not realize just how strong Rhulk was? Like all the worm gods, Rhulk made them his bitch. Rhulk would use Oryx as a condom to fuck Nezarec. Jesus. I wouldn't go that far, but that's, yeah. I mean, I guess Rhulk destroyed 2 stars of suns, didn't he? Yeah, destroyed his home planet and then felt bad about it afterwards. I swear the relationship between Rhulk and the Witness was like fucking Anakin and the 2 Sith there, right? Insidious. Did anybody else get that same comparison? Rhulk to me is like Anakin without Padme, ever. Wish that was a little more fleshed out in game. I wish, me too, man. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wish stuff like this was more fleshed out. King's Fall caused you to have anxiety and self-doubt. I don't know, brother. I mean, fucking, I'm gonna say 30 hours into Salvation's Edge, I was questioning life. I was like, man, I don't know if we're gonna get this shit. My shit was on autopilot, dude. I went on complete autopilot. All I could hear was Benny in the background saying things. Benny kept talking. The light at the end of the tunnel was Benny's voice. Dude, I was given my one job and that was it. And that's really the way raids should be, man. You get your job, you do what you're supposed to do. We had to do all kinds of stuff though to stay alive though. It's a single death, just f***ed everything. I still never finished that raid. Literally no one in LFGs would stick around for more than 30 minutes on the 4th encounter. Yeah, dude. I wish there was a way Bungie could do an event once a month or something like that and just make all the raids a 12-man raid or something. Hopefully that would make things a bit easier. The problem is some encounters would literally, like, how could the 4th encounter handle 12 players? Yeah, Les, I know. I love it though, man. But I'm gonna be honest, like all the raids, dude, like once we run them for the first couple months, because we get our weapons, we get our loot, and we don't go back to do them. That's the biggest problem, is like the replayability here. And so what happens is like there's new players that want to play this content, but none of the veteran players are even doing it anymore. So it's like there's no incentive for us to go in there and play with those players outside of just being a good fucking person in your community. But who does that? 4th encounter was there to extend the day 1 raid timer. I'm glad it existed. No, I mean that was a trippy ass. We needed that encounter less. It would have been so much more. So it would be extremely. I think the raid would have been a letdown without the 4th encounter. They could just introduce shinies in all raids with low drop chance. Could, dude. Oh man, they could, dude. If there was even if it was something like if Bungie ever came out with a new rarity of gear, and they called it like uniques or something, it was like they have a chance of dropping everywhere in the game, but like raids had a double chance drop. Oh my. I would do so many raids. Make raids soloable? No, they got dungeons for that, man. Yeah, raids are meant to be done with a squad. No MMORPG out there that has raid-like content allows it to be done solo. There may be some out there, but like in-game raids are meant to be done with a squad. Dungeons you could do solo. Final Fantasy does? Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. And look, some of you pointing out that some raids in some of these other games can be soloable. You could solo some raids too in this game. People do them. You just got to be able to do them. You want to go solo Crota? You could, good luck. Obviously, we had people do it back at D1 days. And there are gamers out there that have found ways to solo. If not just do low mans, you can do 2-man. 2-man all day long. The real question is why would you want to? Why would you ever dumb down an encounter to make it approachable for solo players whenever it's supposed to be a 6-man activity? Now you're going to sacrifice the squad for someone's solo experience. When we have things like dungeons already that offer that. You have the ability to do dungeons to do solos. More solo content would take this game to another level. I am all for more approachable content, whether it be solo or groups. And I think if it's going to be group content, there needs to be a better commendation system. It's a resource similar to Final Fantasy 14 that incentivizes people to act as Sherpas and to also just be better, just be nicer. Yeah, I'd say a lot of our content is very group driven, if not all of our content. You know, Grandmaster Nightfalls, for instance, Dungeons, 3-man. I don't know. I think, and again, everyone always blows up about this because I feel like Bungie went through a lot to add Fireteam Finder in the game. I think Fireteam Finder is a great feature. And maybe there's no reason to have matchmaking. How many players do you think, though, despite Fireteam Finder being in the game, still don't use Fireteam Finder? Do you think people are more likely to play content if they just open up matchmaking? Like, what if we just had both? What if we had open matchmaking for everything and Fireteam Finder? I don't think one or the other is going to destroy. Because it's like you can obviously just load up randomly with people, or you can go get a squad if you want a more curated squad. Content creators refuse to help with Salvation's Edge because it's a massive time vampire. You know, depends on what the content creator is known for. You know what I mean? Like, if they're a Sherpa, all right, you know, maybe. But it's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm here for loot just like you. I get my loot within the first month of something dropping. I'm not really looking to do anything else in that rate. Now, if there was an incentive though to do it, like, I mean, look, I'm just being frank, guys. Like, I move for the loot. So if there was like, again, like I brought up chance of uniques or a commendation system that I could spend as currency, yeah, we'd be doing a lot more Sherpa stuff.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.